The book of Genesis was grossly mistranslated. It doesn't mean anything like what the translators put down or what people have in their minds, that God created the heavens and the earth. That's not what that means. It means that he created the atmosphere and the land. Why would it say heavens and earth first, whenever after that it says, and he called the dry earth land, or the dry land earth? The evening and the morning were the first day. That word day actually just means time. That's why afterwards it says these are the generations whenever God created the atmosphere and the land. And the Jews and everybody know that it is not a creation story of the universe. That's not what was believed. That's not what it is. What it's talking about is the last super event that happened that wiped out humanity. It's talking about since the last ice age. And then after that, the waters had to abate off of the earth so the dry land could appear, so you could get vegetation and everything. And all of that, transpiration and everything, the clouds had to move, everything had to happen. And you can look it up. Look up the Fertile Crescent. The Fertile Crescent, Israel, was the first inhabitable place after the last ice age. And people talking about the Garden of Eden, it was around there. People place it now in Iraq or something, but those rivers, the Euphrates, the Tigris, everything, they used to be a lot wider and go a lot further. Whenever it said, be fruitful and multiply, they hadn't had any children yet, and they didn't have any children until after the fall of man. That be fruitful and multiply and subdue the earth was he gave mankind dominion over the animals and the plants and everything. He was literally saying, cultivate the land and spread cultivate the land and the animals and spread them throughout the land. And again, it was to replenish because something had already been there. The actual story should say, in the beginning, God prepared the atmosphere and the land to make it livable for man. And he had these animals and these things, and they all cultivated from one place and spread throughout the world after the last horrible event. And then whenever he finished the creation, it says all the host of them. And people think that means angels were created and everything else was created. It's literally talking about everything that would be on earth. The creeping things, the mammals, the reptiles, the fish, the trees, the plants. And depending on the Bible, there's only like 7 pages until Noah. The Bible's not about a creation story. It is about the Jewish people taking their lineage back to the beginning and then coming into what they were through Noah, through the destruction, through the flood, through Abraham, it's just, they're just giving a quick recap. If the Bible was a creation story, it would be longer than the whole Bible. But everybody wants to argue over, they call in the Bible the Word of God, and then there's only 7 pages of all of creation, even until the flood of Noah and a restart of humanity. Whenever Cain was kicked out of the presence, he was kicked out of Eden. See, they fell from the spiritual, but they were still living in Eden afterwards, it says. They were just kicked out of the garden. They were kicked out of where the tree of life was. They were kicked out of the spiritual Eden. And they were robed in skin. They were robed in flesh. They didn't just get some animal skins put on them. They were robed in this cursed ground and this cursed flesh. That's why whenever Cain was kicked out, he was kicked out to the wasteland. It said that the earth would not yield him its strength whenever he planted. Why? Because God put some kind of curse where Cain no longer had a green thumb? No. Cain said, this is too much for me. I'm kicked out of your presence, and everybody's going to try to kill me. That was God trying to stop terrorism. He said, don't kill Cain, don't one person and then other people kill because of that, and it's going to get out of hand. But he was kicked out to the wasteland where people were no longer, that left God. God's presence was here still, in Eden with Adam and all of them. He was still there, but since they didn't honor God as God whenever they knew God, they stopped dealing with man like that. What I'm saying is the whole story of Adam and Eve, it wouldn't even be bad, but the way that Old Hebrew was, you can literally translate that to so many different things. So it was up to the minds of the translators whenever they wrote that stuff down, because they could have gone many different ways with it, the way that the Hebrew was back then. The whole story's bogus. It's nothing like what the truth is. The truth is God has been having ages of mankind forever. There's many cities in heaven. God wasn't sitting up there for an infinite number of years and go, 6,000 years ago or so? Well, it should be more like 10 probably. But then they'd go through the genealogies and argue about everything. But he wasn't like, I think I'll create man. Yeah, that's what I'll do. There were ages before Adam and Eve. There were ages before anything. There's ages after Jesus and the church and what happened in the Bible. We live in those ages. And there's going to be ages after us. This is going to keep going. God did not make a planet to destroy it. He just didn't. Anyway, give me a follow. I'm going to keep trying to clear stuff up in the Bible that just isn't true. I'm going to make in-depth videos on this. I actually started writing this too. I don't know if I'm going to publish it or what, but give me a follow and check out my YouTube, where eventually, hopefully soon, I'm going to be putting all these things more in depth using verses and stuff like that. My YouTube is my name, Derek Jester.